individuals because at the end of the day, I see it with my practitioners where you pour love and energy all day long to your patients. And the reality that with this world that we're living in is that we really need to start thinking about exit strategies, having residual, real leverage income, because it's a conversation that we don't really like to talk about. At least it's something, it's for me a little scary to think about. But the reality is we all know people out there that are outliving their money. So that's what this call was about. I have been with the company for a little over a year. I have been in nutrition and health and wellness, working with functional medicine practitioners for over 15 years. And I'm forever grateful that I found this opportunity and it came to me. And I'm doing people a disservice by not sharing what we have our hands on. And I just went out to Utah a couple weeks ago to spend a couple days with our corporate leaders, and it really showed the vision of what we have. And I was able to connect with some professionals out there, like our special guest tonight. So I'm so excited that we have Dr. Jeff Piccirillo. He is a osteopathic physician, a orthopedic surgeon. He is somebody that has done the dues with building residual income in several businesses, and LifeVantage came to him. And when I saw him when he first joined, and he's got an incredible story to share, in October is when we launched our natural GLP-1 weight loss. So I had not seen him since that. So I was able to spend a couple days with him and his wife in Utah, and unbelievable. I didn't even recognize, he was he lost a person. So thank you so much. I know how busy you are. You have a thriving practice in Ocala, and I am just thankful that you decided to come on this call to share your wisdom with what you're doing and to inspire these practitioners to do the same.
Holly, thanks so much for the introduction. It's still kind of surreal to me when somebody introduces me and throws out all these accolades about what I do and who I am, because I still don't expect it. I love doing these calls, especially when I'm doing calls with other medical practitioners, because we've all been through it. Whether you're a physician and you've had to go through medical school and residency, or if you're an affiliate to a practice, a nutritionist or a therapist or a nurse or whatever. I mean, you've gone through the training, and it makes me sad. I got out of traditional medicine in 2009. 2008, the changing, the straw that killed the camel's back, was the fact that I was sitting at my desk one day and my billing girl came in and she slid a piece of paper across my desk, and she looked scared. And I didn't know if she thought she was going to get fired or if she thought I was going to throw something at her. I had no idea why she looked panicked. And it was an explanation of benefits from Aetna Insurance. And it was for a knee replacement that I did in August of 2008. And this was October of 2008. And the EOB was for $875 for a knee replacement. And so when she called Aetna and asked Aetna, the snarky girl on the other side of Aetna, I'm looking to see where everybody's from. So we don't have any New Englanders. I think it was probably a snarky lady from New England. And she said, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm looking at his contract, and well, he agreed to this rate. And so I called back and I said, well, I can unagree to it. And so I personally dropped out of Aetna. My partners, I had 6 surgical partners at that time, 1 non-surgical partner. We had a group of 5 orthopedists and a podiatrist and a rheumatologist. And so I dropped out, and then I started looking at my life, and I realized that medicine as I knew it and medicine as I had practiced it for the previous amount of time was not a way to be successful, that we could not continue going this direction. And so I decided that I was going to go cash January 1st of 2009 and get out of the prescription writing and surgical side of medicine and really look more at a more holistic, more wellness approach. So that was the straw that broke the camel's back, was getting an EOB for 3 months of work, essentially seeing the patient, doing the surgery, 3 months of follow-up care, everything's included in that 90-day global period, and getting paid $875. The writing was on the wall. And so I started looking at regenerative medicine and stem cells and platelet-rich plasma. I had done platelet-rich plasma for starting in 2002. I did my first PRP case in the operating room. So I knew how it worked and I knew what it could do and had done all the research. I was one of the first orthopedic surgeons to go down that road. And so I started developing this practice. And then, I met someone that had been teaching other doctors how to do procedures, and realized that there was a residual income in that. So we started training people on platelet-rich plasma in musculoskeletal, and then they would join kind of our group, and they'd pay a monthly fee to have access to me and access to research and documents and things that were online. So I was making a little residual that way, and then got organized with some medical equipment companies and started promoting some of their products, and they were paying me a residual. So I understood about residual. And I had done network marketing twice before. I did one in 2008 to about 2012, and then left that one. It actually ended up closing, and joined another one very quickly, which was a weight loss product. And I loved both of them. And then I joined one that was not successful a little bit after that. And I vowed that I was never, ever, ever going to do this again. I realized the amount of work that it takes to really build a business, and that I'd be on calls like this several nights a week, which is what I'm doing now. And but I loved it. I love speaking to people. I love helping people. I love helping other practitioners. So when this came to me last July, I said no twice. Lindy Ritsu signed me up, and Lindy came to my office twice and showed me the literature and the research, and I looked at it and I said, I'll take the products, I'll take the Protandim, I'll take the liquid collagen. MindBody GLP-1 had not been announced yet. And so little did I know that on her second visit, and when I said no, she said, well, would you be willing to get on a three-way call? And I said, well, I know this game. I've played this game before. I'm usually the other one on the end of that three-way call. And I said, yeah, I'll hop on. And so she dialed the number, and Tara Wilson answered the phone. And Tara, for most of you that are already in LifeVantage, know that Tara is a presidential with LifeVantage. And Tara and I realized that we were in both the two previous companies together and had traveled together with those companies. And Tara still knew that she was losing me. She knew that I wasn't going to do it. At 62 years old, I wasn't interested in starting a team. And so she pulled a little trick out of her bag, and she asked Lindy to leave the room, and she said, all right, I'm going to break my NDA there's nobody from corporate on this call. I'm looking at the list.
No, you're good.
Oh, you're good.
So she said, I'm going to break my NDA, and I'm going to tell you that this was a Tuesday. She said, on Saturday, we're having a virtual event, and we're announcing the release of an all-natural activator for GLP-1. And my next words were, holy shit, this is going to be huge. How do I sign up? I remembered I was in Visalis when Visalis was our team was adding 1,000 people a day. I knew what weight loss was. Visalis went from $34 million to $1 billion in 4 years. I knew what weight loss was. And I said, yeah, this is it. This is my retirement money. I'm going all in, both feet, 15, 20 hours a day. I don't care what it takes. This is what I'm going to do. I'm 62. I can work till I'm 65, 66, 67. I'm going to build this team. I'm going to have legacy money for my wife, who's 15 years younger than me. We have a son who's 20. I've adopted him. I raised him since he was 8. And I decided this was it. I decided that this was my new call. And then I had been preaching for years that our system is broken. Doctors and maybe the doctors. I'm looking at Stephen on the call, and he looks very, very scholarly, sitting at his desk with his glasses on. So I think I'm preaching to the choir on this call, but doctors today, they don't look at root cause. I mean, we know that oxidative stress is the root cause of 220 different diseases, but does your doctor ever talk to you about it? Absolutely not. We know that lower GLP-1 is the cause of obesity. Do we talk about it? No, we have short-term answers for long-term problems. I have been obese since 8th grade. Honest to God, that's God's truth. I graduated 8th grade at 200 pounds. I graduated high school at 265, went on to college, played football in college at 285, 2 years in the NFL playing anywhere between 285 and probably 315. And then after my 2 years in the NFL, I decided to go to medical school. And so now I was sitting in a library reading books and studying every day. I wasn't going to the gym anywhere near as much. And I put on during medical school probably 30 or 40 pounds of fat. And I've been fighting that my whole life. I probably lost the same 100 pounds 10 different times in my life. I've got up as high as almost 400 pounds. Um, while I was practicing medicine, standing next to an operating table on my feet all day, that takes a toll. And then I lost a bunch of weight and I got down to about 220. And then I stopped working out and stopped dieting and I went back up to 315. And when I started this journey back in October, I started it the day that we launched the GLP-1. When we launched the Mind Body on October 12th, I started it, and I was lucky enough to not be affected by the shortage, by the back order. I had enough in my pantry that I could stay on it. So I've been on it every day since October 12th, and as of this morning, I'm down 70 pounds. So we have now a long-term solution to a long-term problem. And let me explain why I say that. I'll look back to where I was starting back, right after I started medical school and I started putting weight. I really didn't worry about dieting, 8th, 9th, 10th grade through college. I was working out. I was heavy, but I was an offensive lineman, so I was allowed to be heavy. They didn't expect me to run very fast. I was probably in pretty decent shape. But I was a big guy. And so when I started dieting, probably second year of med school, when we're getting ready to start our rotations, I did calorie restriction and I worked out every day at the gym, and it worked while you were doing that, and then you put the weight back on. I've done cabbage soup diet, I've done Atkins, I've done keto, I've done low fat, high protein, I've done low carb, low calorie. If there was a diet I've been on, I did HCG, I did the Fen diet. I've been on all of them. I even did Ozempic for about 8 months, the worst 8 months of my life. I had reflux so bad that I couldn't sleep in bed with my wife. I just sleep upright in a recliner because my reflux was so bad that I couldn't lay down flat. I had diarrhea every day, probably 8 to 10 times a day for 8 months on Ozempic. And it's the same way. If you look at the study now that came out, the NIH study that came out about 6 months ago, the NIH study looks at what happens when you stop these injectables. If you stop the injectables in the first year, well, let's even go back to that. When you stop the injectables, in the first 2 months after stopping them, you gain about 20% of your weight back. So if you've lost 80, you can expect in the first 2 months to gain 16 pounds back. Because think about what happens for those of you that have had physiology and you understand hormones and what happens if you take an exogenous source, an outside source of a hormone, your body stops making it. So if you're on an injectable of GLP-1, an exogenous of GLP-1, whether it's Mounjaro, Wegovy, Rybelsus, Ozempic, I don't care which one it is, your body stops making natural GLP-1. So when you stop it, your blood level is 0. So how long does it take your body now to build up a blood level till it's normal? We don't know that answer. We know from the 12-week clinical study that MindBody did that in the first 8 weeks, we only lost about a pound a week. And starting about week 9, the weight starts coming off. We know it was 25 pounds average by 3 months. So we know in that third month, we're probably starting to get up to a normal level. We know at the end of that 12 weeks that the average, and at least when it was first published back in October, the average was it increased GLP-1 levels by 140%. Back at the Global 2 weeks ago, they announced that they repeated that study, and now they look at it, the levels at 12 weeks are up about 200%. So we know what happens. We know we can raise the levels. But the problem is Big Pharma has a cash grab now. Big Pharma understands, and I think it's part of their plan. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think they understand, and I think NIH proved it, that if you go on these injections, it's another form of yo-yo dieting.
Yeah,
What's
for sure.
happening is you're going to lose weight for the first year. You're going to go off the drug. You're going to put the weight back on. You're going to go back on the drug, and you're going to lose it again. And then you're going to go off the drug, and you're going to put it back on. And it's just another form of yo-yo dieting that Big Pharma can now cash grab. How much
Right.
can they cash grab? 2023, Ozempic alone was $38 billion. Number one selling drug in the United States in 2023, 38 billion. They're predicting that by 2031, it's going to be between 138 and 200 billion dollars a year. So I'm just going to throw up a couple slides really quick.
And I wanted to ask you, I know that
Yeah, absolutely.
your practice was you guys
Can
were
you see that
recommending,
slide?
you guys were, yes, you were recommending.
That was me at probably age
Wow.
20. It's really not me, but I had the facial hair and the hair
Yeah.
and the earring.
Yeah.
That was probably after Penn State because Coach Paterno wouldn't let us have facial hair, anything touching our collar, or an earring. So that was probably after age 23. That was maybe like when I started in the NFL. So just to kind of show where,
Yeah.
but
So
it's really
can
not me.
you,
But I look like that. I was
yeah.
eating, we would go to McDonald's and I would eat 20 Big Macs on a Tuesday. We had dollar Big Macs on Tuesday
Gosh.
night at Penn State. So
So
yeah, I
talk
just
to
go
us
and wolf
about
down about 20 of them.
talk
So
to
go ahead and
us
ask your
about
question.
how you transitioned, because your practice was recommending injectables for
Yeah,
the fatty
absolutely.
part.
A lot of it
And so talk to me how you transitioned with LifeVantage, how that was, professionally, and also how you were able to transition your patients onto the GLP. And then can you share just other benefits? Because we were finding so many other benefits
oh,
of the mind
absolutely.
body
So,
system.
you can see the statistics that are up on the screen, and I'll just leave those in the background. But, we know that obesity in the United States is right now 42%. We have like 5 states that are pushing 50. So West Virginia is the worst at 49.8%. 82% of Americans feel that they are overweight and they're trying to battle their weight. 36% in Australia and the Philippines, 46% in Thailand. And we have consultants in all of those countries. So obesity is a big problem. So yeah, we practiced, we had probably 30 to 40% of our practice was hormones and weight loss. So we had a lot of people taking the injectable GLP-1s. Ozempic was horrible. We had horrible side effects. We had a little better results as far as side effects go with Mounjaro, with tirzepatide, but we were still having those things. And so when this got announced back last July, I started talking to our patients, and mostly, I have a couple of nurse practitioners that really run the practice, and I was talking to them. They both signed up in LifeVantage as well because I told them, you talk to the patient, you put them in, they're on your team. I'll still be the head of the team, but they're with you. And so they started talking to people and saying, hey, we think we have a better alternative. And by the time they released it in October, I started understanding the problem. I understood that we did not have a long-term solution ever. I was in eighth grade. Let me think about this. I graduated high school. I was in eighth grade, so I was 14, 1976. So I was 18 in 1976. And I realized that I look back to that time and I realized we didn't really have an obesity epidemic at that time. I can remember two people in my in my hometown, my little 11,000 person hometown in Pennsylvania. I remember two obese people. They were a brother and a sister. And tragically, neither of them are here now. They both died at a fairly young age. But they're the only two I can remember. And so a lot has changed since then. But so I started looking at the research and trying to figure out why we had this problem. And this is where it led me. It led me to the fact that there's multiple things that will lower GLP-1. Yo-yo dieting lowers GLP-1. Emotional eating. If we eat because we're happy, we eat because we're sad, we eat because we had a stressful day at work. Not eating because we're hungry, but eating for emotional reasons. That naturally lowers GLP-1. Oxidative stress, and I'll go ahead and change to the next slide here real quick. Maybe do that. Oxidative stress also lowers all the hormones for metabolism. So if we're attacked with oxidative stress, the more highly processed foods is probably the number one thing that will lower our GLP-1 levels. If we're eating ultra high processed foods, anything in the middle of the grocery store, the stuff that's not on the outside aisles, not the fresh meats, organic meats, vegetables, and fruits, but everything that's in a package, the more we eat, the more free radicals, the more oxidative stress. More oxidative stress, we downregulate thyroid, testosterone, estrogen, human growth hormone, GLP-1, and then we lead to more obesity. More obesity leads to more free radicals. That's actually an article on the bottom. Obviously, you can't click on it, but if you write that down real quick, increased oxidative stress and obesity, and there's an actual journal article that talks about how oxidative stress leads to metabolic syndrome. And so as I started doing all this research, I realized that the stem of this problem was that the root cause of obesity was oxidative stress. And so we already had a supplement for that. We already had an activator. We had Protandim NRF2 that is the best antioxidant. So that combination, and then being able to activate our own GLP-1 levels, now we have a long-term answer for a long-term problem. And so that's the combination that I talked to my staff about. And I said, this is what we really need to be doing. We need to be starting people on Protandim. We need to lower, and we had already been looking at thyroid, testosterone, estrogen, using IGF-1 levels to look at human growth hormone. Obviously, there's not a test yet for GLP-1. I think it's coming. So we could follow those levels. We could supplement with T3, T4, and then use other products to try to push over T4 to T3 conversion. We could supplement testosterone, estrogen. We could use Sermorelin for human growth hormone as a secretagogue. And we were using the synthetic GLP-1s, but now we had something to activate GLP-1 from inside. So we started talking to our patients about all of this literature and all of this study, and then we started transitioning them from the injectables to the mind-body GLP-1 system, because we were able to now
What other
understand that this
benefits
was the long-term solution to the long-term problem.
So other than weight loss, I mean, I know that there's some gut and some cognitive and dopamine increase with the GLP-1. How are you doing the Protandim activator with collagen prior? How long are they on it
Yeah, so we're starting them now that before October, before GLP-1 was launched, we started people over the summer on the collagen, because obviously as you lose weight, you're going to lose some fat and stuff in your face. So, skin turgor is very important. So we started the collagen. We found out very early on with the liquid collagen product that it really, really helped joint pain. And when somebody came in that was overweight or obese, one of the first things they would tell us is, well, I can't get out and walk. I can't exercise. My knees hurt too bad. And so we found out that they were getting better on the collagen product because of it was helping rebuild their articular cartilage in their joints. I had been dealing with that for a long time. As an orthopedic surgeon, we would have people come in and say, oh, I want to try this sharp cartilage, or I want to try chondroitin and glucosamine. And we tell them, try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, don't waste your money. Well, now we had something that we knew worked. It actually worked in me. I've had joint knee pain for a long time
That's
after my
amazing.
football career. So it was working. So we started people on it over the summer. And then when Mind Body came out in October, we started adding that in. We would taper them off of their synthetic GLP-1. We would first week we would half the dose and then give them a quarter dose the next 2 weeks, and then we would stop it completely. And they would still rebound and gain some weight. And then usually by 60 to 90 days, they'd see some of that weight starting to come off. And then they would stay on it until they reached their goal. And after their goal, that was when we started to really have to guess. And what we've been doing is we've been having to do half a dose. We would have them do 1 pill and 2 scoops a day instead of the 2 pills and 4 scoops a day to try to maintain their GLP-1 levels at an elevated rate. So that's how we've been addressing it in clinical practice.
Okay. And then are you, because there are these other benefits with the GLP-1, are you recommending it to other patients other than just weight loss? And then,
Yeah, so
and then just
I
talk to us
actually
about how
have
you put patients on it.
yeah, so I
Easily.
have 2 people on my team that so I have a couple really interesting stories along that line. So the answer is yes. One of the things that we're seeing, and we've had some patients come in because we've treated a few and have seen some changes. We know that there's some research out there from Big Pharma showing its effectiveness against, well, we know that it lowers visceral fat. In the study that LifeVantage did, the 12-week study, we knew that visceral fat went down an average of 27%. Well, one of the biggest problems with visceral fat is fat around the liver. And there's actually a disease called NASH, which is non-alcoholic liver disease. And if you have it long enough, the fatty liver will turn into cirrhosis, and then it'll scar. And then when it scars, it can lead to liver transplant. And they're finding out that the GLP-1s, the injectable GLP-1s, were working against that. And a couple of the big pharma companies did studies on it and found out that it was successful against fatty liver because it's lowering the visceral fat. And so we've had some patients come in and want to go on the GLP-1 for that, and we're monitoring those now. But the interesting thing, we had a couple addiction doctors, one out in California and one in New York City, that I was talking to. I worked with them in the past on a couple other projects, and they were using the prescription GLP-1s in their addiction patients because, as we know, it decreases your craving, especially for sugar, and it keeps you satiated longer when you eat food. And the reason being is it's not just GI, that we're finding that it actually helps at the pleasure center level of the brain. So if you can down-regulate this pleasure center, then you can down-regulate these addiction issues. So they started using it in alcohol addiction, drug addiction, nicotine addiction, and they're having really good success with the injectables. So I had these 2 doctors jump on it and say, it's costing my patients anywhere from $650 to $1,350 a month to be on the prescription injectables because it's an off-label use. The only on-label use really is diabetes. And so they started using the Mind Body at $179 a month and finding they were still having that down regulation. I can tell you that if there was such a group as Oreos Anonymous, I would be a card holding, coin getting Oreos Anonymous member. My son has a dairy allergy, and Oreos are one of the few snack foods that have no dairy. Even the fluffy stuff in the middle of the Oreos, no dairy. And because of his dairy allergy, we always have Oreos in the house. And I would literally walk past the pantry and they would call my name. So I was eating 6, 8, some days 10 Oreos a day. And I have not had an Oreo since October. That craving just isn't there because it down regulates that pleasure center of your brain. So yeah, they're using it for that. We know already from a bunch of studies done by Big Pharma that it's cardiac protective. We know that if people are on the injectable GLP-1s for diabetes, we know that it brings down their A1C. but it also decreases their risk of cardiac events. So it's cardiac protective. So, with that it's brain protective, we know it's renal protective, we know it decreases the risk of fat around your organs, which can lead to all kinds of diseases. There's no reason not to be on it for the rest of your life. I'm going to be on it at full dose from when I started it in October until the day that I die. I don't see any reason ever to stop it. I think that because I know you can do it with the injectables, you can overeat against what your body's telling you. And I don't think there's any reason that you would continue to lose weight if you didn't want to, even at a full dose. I think you could probably cheat a little bit and stay on the full dose a little bit longer. And cheating is interesting. I went out last night and had dinner with my wife. We have some friends that own a nice restaurant here in Ocala, and we went there. And I'm usually very persistent about not eating many carbs. I like to keep my carb count down less than about 20 grams a day. And he had Chef Tony had a new salad on the menu that had I love beets, had beets, but it also had some blueberries and some strawberries and some tomatoes and all things that I typically don't eat, but I ate this amazing beet salad. So I eat more carbs than I normally would. So that's a cheat day for me now. It's not pizza, it's not a piece of cake, a piece of pie. That's considered a cheat day. But I think you could have more of those cheat days once you reach your goal, if you stay on it for all the other health benefits for a longer period of time.
So we're running out of time here, but so what is the best advice that you can give? I mean, we have, anywhere from 85 to 90% retention. I know that, in my time with the company, like people just don't get off these products because they work, because
Right.
we're literally turning on switches that have been dim for
Oh,
so.
and that's where, I mean, if you look back let's go all the way back to where it started. It started with ABC News primetime special report. John Quinones went on the product and thought it wasn't going to do anything and it was going to be a hit piece and they were going to say this stuff doesn't work and it's garbage and nobody should be on it. And he felt better and his labs got better. So I would love to know if he's still taking it. I don't know that, but I would love to interview him now, 20 years later, and see if he's still taking the product. And if he's not, why not? But with that being said, I just recommend antioxidant. It's a no-brainer. You should be on it the rest of your life. NRF1 mitochondrial decline is very well proven in the medical literature that our mitochondrial ability, the mitochondria's ability to make energy, to make ATP goes down as we age. So building that back up with NRF1 makes sense. NAD is probably one of the best longevity molecules that's out there. We used NAD in our practice for a long, long time. I loved NAD before any of the regenerative injections in the joints, because we know one of the things that NAD does is it mobilizes stem cells from the bone marrow to the peripheral circulation. So it allows those stem cells that are now in the circulation to go to areas where it needs healing. And if you use something like a PRP injection, platelet-rich plasma, into a joint, it's going to activate that response and pull the stem cells there. So the stem cells are already in the bloodstream. It helps that response. So I think NAD is something that everyone should be on. It helps your brain, it helps mobilize stem cells. So once again, a great longevity molecule. So that tri-synergizer, if you can afford it, it's something that you should be on the rest of your life. And I think the GLP-1 follows suit with all three of those.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions as we're wrapping up? I mean, I think that one of the points, if you could just touch on this a bit, I think that what we're seeing is changes in our with the businesses of a lot of companies are bypassing the practitioners and they're going right to the consumer. So this
Mhm.
whole idea, I think that sometimes when we were a biotech company that started back in 30 some odd years ago, where they had it on the shelves of GNC, nobody knew about it, and they had to get the story out, because when you're
Well,
literally changing lives by activating these pathways naturally in our body, um, so what would you say to practitioners? Because there's kind of like we're a direct sales, that you have that stigma, but
you
we've set
do.
to where you
We
can either have customers or you can
so
build a team. So it makes it easy for the doctors. But what would you say to the practitioners that maybe still, because integrity is very important to them?
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, one of the things that I use, so I have a lot of doctors on my team. I was able to reach out to doctors that I've trained in PRP or I've trained in aesthetics or I talked to them about NAD and, got them to join my team. So I have a team, a significant team of physicians. And the ones that argue, the ones that say, oh, this is one of those pyramid schemes or this is one of these direct sales, multi-level things. I don't usually do those in my business. And I say, well, a lot of them also buy medical equipment from me. And I say, it's no different than any other company if you really think about it. If you buy something from me, I make a commission, but my commission, if my sales manager hits their goal, they get more commission. And if that happens to enough sales managers, then the vice president of sales makes more money, they get more commission. If they get more commission, the owner of the company gets more commission. And then he can order more products and the manufacturer makes more. So every business in the world is multi-level. We just don't classify it that way. But if you look deep, everybody's making money from the people below them. So I try to explain it that way. And some people I can convert, some people don't. Here's the thing, and because we have practitioners on here, and I'm sure we have practitioners on here that are still still taking insurance. And the insurance business, I mean, you are essentially, they're your pimp. They're pimping you out, and you don't get everything. You get a portion of what you make, and if you cross all the T's, dot all the I's, you might get a little bigger percentage, but they're not paying you what they're making. The insurance companies aren't giving you the lion's share of that money. So you need to get out from under their thumb, and this is a way to do it. This is a way to get that mailbox money once a month coming in that you can find products that you believe in. And you have to believe. If you don't believe in them, if you're listening to me and saying, Dr. Jeff's full of crap, he doesn't know what he's talking about, then you're at the wrong place. But if you believe in what I'm saying, and even if you need to see more of the data, get my email address. The ladies that are hosting this call, they have contacted me, and I'd be more than happy to talk to any practitioner. I have all the research. I have all the data. I've been researching it for 9 months now. But this gives us a legacy. When you quit, when you hang up your shingle, you put your black bag in the closet and you're done practicing medicine, the insurance companies are not going to send you a residual check every month. They're not. I mean, I know you believe that. And maybe you think, oh, but you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sell my practice to Dr. Jones down the street. Well, you know what? Dr. Jones doesn't want your practice because if you close, a lot of the patients are going to come to you anyway. Your patients come to you because they love you. They're not coming to you, and then when you retire, they're going to just say, oh, well, he sold it to Dr. Jones, and I guess I have to like Dr. Jones. No, they're going to look for their own person. And if they like Dr. Jones, they might go to him. But if they like Dr. Smith, they might go to him too, or Dr. Terry or Dr. Nancy or whoever is down the street. But they're not necessarily going to go to the person that you sold your practice to. So you don't have any, once you sell your practice, you have no residual income. But with this company, you actually have a residual. You can make money for the rest of your life as long as your patients stay on the product. And because the products are so good, I don't see patients going off of them. And so this is, I got in trouble. This is the first time in 9 months that I got a letter from the compliance department just 2 days ago. I put something out on Facebook about legacy money, and they did not like the words legacy money. I guess that violates something. But it's what it is. And I sent a letter saying, all right, I'll take the Facebook post
Right.
down.
Yeah.
But I asked them, I said, explain to me. I still haven't gotten the response. I said, explain to me why that's not why that's not allowed, why I can't say, if you join and you build a team, you have the ability to make legacy money. And they didn't like it. So we'll see what their answer is. But it's what you're really able to do. I
Yeah.
think that you are able to build a team. And I think what happens, and this is what happened with me, is when I started seeing the results, I started talking to my doctor friends about it. And when I talked to my doctor friends about it, then they said, well, if you're so passionate, and you guys have been listening to me now for, which is short for me, about 36 minutes, I like to talk. But you can see how passionate I am about this. And you know, they would say, well, if you're so darn passionate about this, we want to see it. We want to sign up with you and run
And
this
the
with
fact of the
you.
matter that you lost 70 pounds, I
And
mean,
the fact that I've lost
tell
70
me.
pounds,
So,
but you know, so I'm, you
you
know, I'm
are a
living.
walking billboard.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, but you know, I'm also just passionate. I mean, you don't see the results of NAD. You don't see the results of NRF1 and NRF2. I mean, now we finally have a product. Liquid collagen you did. We saw the fine lines and wrinkles go away, and you feel the joint pain get better. But you know, now we have a product that you really truly see the results. You know, when
Yeah.
my jacket size went down from a 58 to a 50, and my waist size went down from a 48 to a 38. So yeah, you can see that and visibly know that I'm the walking billboard for that. But I'm also just passionate about how good these products are. We've used supplementation in our office for a long time. The difference between supplementation and activation, I think, is important to understand because, you know, if somebody's vitamin D level is low, we give them vitamin D. That supplements their vitamin D. But this is different. This isn't giving, we're not giving GLP-1. The injections of GLP-1, Big Pharma is supplementing GLP-1. They're giving an outside source of GLP-1 and artificially raising the GLP-1 levels. But this is different. This is an activator. This is tiny little building blocks.
Yeah.
Yerba mate, matcha, honeysuckle, berberine, and they're allowing the body and some probiotics that are mixed in with it. They're allowing the body to make its own GLP-1s from inside. That's completely different. You know, this whole field of nutrigenomics, taking nutritional products to change the genes in your body and the cycles in your body to upregulate some of these pathways, completely different. If you Google nutrigenomics right now, there are two companies out there that are trying to make nutrigenomic products. They have not brought anything to market yet, but the owners of these two companies, Larry Page, that founded and owns Google, and Jeff Bezos, that founded and owns Amazon,
So they
are
obviously
both
see
putting money
big
into
money in it,
nutrigenomics.
right?
What's
Yeah.
that?
And so they obviously see big money
They
in
see
it.
big money in it.
Yeah.
And but you know, here's the difference. LifeVantage had their first nutrigenomic product 20 years ago.
Yep.
And
Yep.
there's 32 studies on it on PubMed, and there's 7 patents on it. So, and the Mind Body is patent pending. Most of these companies, most of these supplement companies don't do that. They don't get patents. They don't have published data. We have that. So if you're a physician or a nurse practitioner or a PA, and you want the science is here. It's not a fly-by-night multi-level marketing company that's pushing out products that have no science and no data behind it. The
You're
science and
exactly right.
data
And
are here.
I'm gonna go to a question here
Okay,
as we're running out of time.
because I will talk for if you.
I will tell you, and I don't want to, no, I love the information, but I will tell you this. One of the things that I've noticed in a year with being with the company, and I'm a science geek. Life happens. I lost my job about 4 months ago, and I didn't do anything for the month of April. But the residual income, I did nothing with LifeVantage for the month of April because life happened, and we have a 90% retention. So to get $3,000 check when I didn't do anything for the whole month of April, but it's just these people that love the products, they benefit the products. And then going back to like what you said, inflammation, it's there. It's the root cause of aging and disease. We know it. And we know that NRF2 reduces inflammation by 70% in 90 days, which
Yeah.
fixes a lot of the problems.
Well,
But
upregulate, I mean,
people,
the master antioxidant in the body is superoxide dismutase, or SOD.
yeah.
It upregulates SOD by 40% in 30 days. So to give you an example of that, and I wish I had this slide, but you know, one molecule of SOD can neutralize 1 million free radicals. To neutralize 1 million free radicals, eating organic blueberries, it would take 20 pints. So, or 200 pints. So 200 pints of organic blueberries or one Protandim NRF2 a day. That's your choice if you want to fight oxidative stress disease in your body.
So the question was from Doc Mitchell. He had come on a little bit late, and this is a great question because it does come up, when people, um, you know, have to kind of wean or titrate up if the fiber is too much. What are you doing about, weaning them on the GLP-1 so it's not too much for their system?
Yeah, no, it's an absolutely great question. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel on that. So if you go to Dr. Jeff Effect on YouTube, you can find the video. It's about an 8-minute video. I talk exactly about that. But it is one of the biggest problems. Most of us are not used to getting fiber in our diet. And especially if you're already obese and you're not eating well and you're eating all the wrong stuff, we're not getting fiber. And so when we go ahead and load the body with 17 grams of fiber, which is the 4 scoops of the Mind Body Enhance, yeah, you can start getting some bloating and some bowel movement changes and stuff, and be kind of miserable. So what I've been doing is I just tell them to start out with 2 scoops the first week, and then go to 3 scoops the second week, and then go to a full 4 scoops. And if you go up a scoop and you feel miserable, go back to the previous week's dosage, stay there for a week or so, and then try to go up. It takes some getting used to if you're not used to it. And most people, I'll be honest with you, most people don't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables or a lot of cereal with fiber in it. I mean, it's just our American diet. It's unfortunate, but it's what we eat. Jennifer and I were at the grocery store the day before yesterday, and there was a family in front of us, and I really wanted to talk to them and wanted to have Jennifer pull out the phone and interview them, but she always gets mad at me because a lot of times I'm too vocal. But they had a whole cart full. They had like 3 little kids with them. It was a mom and dad and 3 little kids, and they had a whole cart full of just bagged groceries, a lot of ultra high processed foods, almost no fruits and vegetables. But the reality is, and what I wanted to get from them is, it's what they can afford. They can't afford to shop on the outside of the aisles. They have to shop on the inside of the aisles. And I would love to do just a talk or interview with somebody just random and talk about that. But I might get shot or hit or something. So Jennifer doesn't allow me to do it. But it's the truth. And so, if you're not used to having fiber in your diet, then you absolutely have to stop. You have to start slow.
Yeah, and then I was going to ask another question. So, how are you making it work? Are patients coming out of the office, and as they leave, your practitioners are putting them,
Yeah.
creating the
Yeah.
schedule? How is that working?
My wife cleaned up my office, so I don't have one on my desk. We have these little cards. Oh, no, I don't. We have these little card. Oh, I have one here. Hang on. I do have one.
And can you mention that YouTube
Yeah,
site
I
again,
was going to
please?
have him type it in the chat.
DrJeff Effect, EFFECT. And it's also my Instagram. So I'd love follows on Instagram. We have these cards. Where am I at? So
Right here.
here's the Mind Body one. And so it has all the stats, and it has a little QR code. And then on the back, it has a QR code to my Tuesday night meeting. And then we have a Pro Tandem one as well. Same thing, statistics, and then some stuff on cell death and some more QR codes. So we have these in the exam rooms, just like you'd have the flyers from Big Pharma for the newest drug that's coming out. We have them, and then when one of my providers talks to a patient and says, "This is what we think you need to be on," they give them the flyer, and then they can actually go out to the front desk when they're checking out, and they'll tell the front desk girl, "Oh, Doc gave me this flyer today and says I need to be on this. How do I sign up?" And they sign them up right there at the front desk on the computer to whoever provider, whichever. We have all the providers' Mind Body sites, so they sign up under the provider that recommended it. And because it's direct marketing, direct sales, network marketing, they're all below me, so I still get a little piece of the action, and
And
everyone
it's nice that you don't have to
everyone is
carry
happy.
products in the office. I mean, that's old school.
We
You
and
have
we
to buy
still we
products.
have one of everything. I mean, when we signed up, I don't know how many people are brand new. I would absolutely sign up for the Business Builder Pack, because the Business Builder Pack has one of every product. So you can put them out on the shelf, because you're already either referring them to GNC or one of the nutrition places for supplements. So they might as well be buying the LifeVantage vitamin and the LifeVantage D3 and probiotic and prebiotic and everything else that's available. They might as well be using that, because if they stay on it long term, you're going to be making money on it. So we have one of everything in the office, so we can show them what it looks like. And if they absolutely want to buy it, we'll sell it to them off the shelf, and we'll just order one, a
Yeah,
replacement one.
I have some practitioners that will carry some in the office, and then as
We
they
carry the
walk
My
out,
Body in the office
they'll
because
create a subscription as they leave, and then they're ready to go. But I think
yeah,
that
we do that with the two that we carry, that we have multiple units of, are Mind Body, Protandim, NRF2, and NAD. So we have those three because we have people that want to walk out with those.
I have
gotcha.
a question, Dr. Jeff,
Yeah.
really quickly. So when you have somebody in the front and your patient says that to you and you sign them up, do you explain to them, or do they explain to them, or do you give them something that says you're going to receive an email, you are on a subscription, you have rewards that if you click the button, because those are things that for me, my background's mortgages, but
Yeah.
I feel like I have to really spend the time. How do you guys do that in an office? Dr. Steve just had to jump off because he's
Okay.
got to go to a meeting, but it's recorded. Can you share
Yeah.
with everyone how you do that?
Yeah, so two ways. One is they will get two things. One is one of the things on the back of the card that ends up going home with them is a link to my Tuesday night call. So we tell them that if you want to hear more about the products, hop on the Tuesday night call, because then that also goes over the business side. So if they decide, hey, I could use making a few extra bucks every month, maybe I want to tell all my friends about it. So they get that. So that way we don't have to have that conversation in the office. And then obviously, because they're patients, we already have their email. So then they'll get an email from us saying, hey, this is your welcome email. Welcome to your weight loss journey. Here are the products you're on. Here's some information about it. If you want more information, you can go to this site. You can go to that site. And then we're able to send sequences out with our email. So they'll get a follow-up email in a
drip
week
campaign.
saying, how are
Like a
things
drip
going,
campaign.
and
Yep.
be able to follow up. And then usually at 2 weeks, somebody from the office, usually my wife, will make a call and say, hey, you've been on the products 2 weeks now. How are things going? Any problems? And be able to address it that way.
Thank you so much. And one more question. Oh shit, it just left me. Hang on. Oh darn it. I'll be back.
That's right. Anybody else? I mean, we still got, looks like we just fell under 10. We have 9 people still on the call. Any other questions?
Oh, I know. On your call Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's a recurring Tuesday, same time.
Every
Is it
Tuesday
30
night.
minutes?
Yes.
Is it a 30-minute? And
I try to keep it under 35, but you figured out that
not you, Dr. Jeff.
I really, really have to struggle to keep it at, so honestly, it runs usually right around 40 to 42 minutes. But
And what do you talk about, Dr. Jeff? What do you talk about on
It's
that
a
call?
complete overview. So I start out with where LifeVantage started, NRF2, liquid collagen, NAD, Axio, a long talk about mind body, and then a little bit at the end about the business opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome.
I just want to end real quick. I thought this was really interesting. One of my another DO of practitioners, and she said, she goes, the industry is changing, and all of these companies are really bypassing the doctors and going right to the consumer. So she tells her patients, it's my job to do my due diligence, to find things that have science and efficacy behind it, to give you the best outcomes that you can. And with these products, you don't have to put your patients on a clinical trial, because we've done the studies already. And she says, if you love these products, share them with some of your friends and family that these would benefit, and you can get your products for free.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, kind of one closing remark is, when we finish medical school, we go from a short white coat to a long white coat, and we have white coat ceremony. And part of that white coat ceremony is we do the Hippocratic Oath. And the Hippocratic Oath, the first words in it is do no harm. And we know that the big pharma drugs can do harm. We absolutely understand and know that. But we're sworn by that oath to do no harm. These products do no harm. They are food-based products that are all natural, that are elevating our body's own natural abilities to heal from the inside out. So if you believe the oath that you gave to do no harm, these are the products that you should be starting with, not the big pharma products. That's a paradigm shift for the doctors that are on the call, because that's not what we were taught. We were taught that if somebody comes in with high blood, and maybe it's shifted a lot even since I've been in medical school, but if somebody comes in with high blood pressure, what do? Well, we give them metoprolol to slow their heart rate, or we give them an ACE inhibitor or calcium channel blocker to bring their blood pressure down, or maybe a diuretic. First-line treatment to treat hypertension. But what is really first-line treatment? First-line treatment is lose some weight, restrict your salt, exercise some more. But that's not a quick treatment. That's a slow treatment, and it's a treatment that you have to be responsible for. Most of our patients won't be responsible enough to do that. So they're going to come back in 3 months and they're still going to be obese. They're still going to be eating salt. They're not exercising, and their blood pressure is still going to go up. And because we're in a time of medical legal risk that people sue you, if something bad happens in those 3 months and they end up getting really high blood pressure and they stroke, then somebody's going to come after you and say, well, doctor, why did you tell them to lose weight and restrict salt when you really should have put them on a blood pressure medicine? You're responsible for this outcome. You're responsible for the stroke that they had. That's the problem that we're up against. And so it truly has to be a paradigm shift, that now we have to think different, and we have to talk to our patients and tell them to take care of their own healthcare destiny. We do not live, the American system is not a healthcare system. And this is where I promise I will close. This is the whole idea behind the Dr. Jeff effect on Instagram, is we do not have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system. Your doctor, for the most part, will address your sickness. They'll address your high blood pressure with a big pharma medication. They'll address your diabetes with a diabetes medication. They'll address your Parkinson's disease or your dementia with a brain altering medication. But they will never, ever address the root cause, because that's health, that's wellness, that's true health care. What we have is a sick care system that addresses the sickness, not the health.
Mic drop.
Thank
The end.
you.
Boom. The end.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
really
You're very
appreciate
welcome.
the time.
Thanks,
and
ladies, for
thanks-
inviting me. And whoever has the recording of this, can you please send it to me?
Yes.
Yes.
Because it will get posted somewhere.